On a quest to recover his family's personal honor by recovering the lost Eagle Standard of the Ninth Legion, lost by his father north of Hadrian's Wall in what we would call Scotland a decade before. This is Channing Tatum and Jamie Bell, 2011, The Eagle. Spoiler alert. At the prompting of viewers, I've been trying to not give away too much about the ending of films or things that are better experienced by the viewer, but I really don't know how to talk about this film without getting to the ending, because the ending is a pivotal part of why it ends up being, well, so disappointing. These Roman era films have been popular ever since Hollywood's been a thing. They come and go in trends. Gladiator began a whole new age of looking for Roman films, despite it being very not historical. The Last Legion is a film that I liked a great deal, but it is very non-historical. It's just a movie, and if it's just a movie, it's fun. The Eagle begins with a discussion of the history of the Ninth Legion and how the Eagle was lost, and it's not right. It links it to why Hadrian built the wall to keep the Pictish tribes out, but it's kind of not really the reason, and certainly not any specific case like that. We don't know the outcome of the history of the Ninth Legion. There's a lot of different theories. They're lost to history, but so it gives you a very succinct, here's the history of our story, none of which is actually demonstrably true. Some of it is outrageously not true. It sets the stage for a fictional historical narrative. Now, that being said, is probably why I had not watched the film previously. People kept encouraging me to see it. I probably turned it off in the past at that point because I was like, eh. But what we get is a very good movie in the middle. The young commander, he asked to be assigned to this terrible posting on Hadrian's Wall, way to the north, no man's land, the end of the world, as they call it. He finds a relatively undisciplined and disillusioned garrison. He's the bright-eyed, starry-eyed, ambitious new commander, the young guy. But he's really, really smart. He's really, really capable. We get a lot of great character development there. The relationship with him and his men, and the men, how they warm up to him and see that he's worthy of respect. There's a battle, but it's not like a Gladiator style or Braveheart Scotland epic battlefield scene. If you're looking for combat scenes, this really isn't the movie. I mean, there's a lot of violence, but it's all mainly personal violence or smaller groups for the most part. But we get his relationship with the garrison. We get this background story of where he comes from, his family, and the loss of the Eagle. He ultimately ends up getting awarded for heroism. He ends up being sort of medically retired, and I don't want to give away too much of that, and ends up with his uncle who lives a little bit further south in Britain. And as the story develops, he decides that he's going to go, him and his newfound slave, Eska, he's going to go north of the wall on a quest to find the missing Eagle Standard. This is not a military expedition. He's not going to lead an army up there. It's just going to be him and this guy incognito. They're going to go up there and find it. We get from this point a very different story than what we might expect, but it's very, very good. Excellent acting, excellent writing, excellent relationship building. How the adventures of the two men north of the wall in this sort of pre-modern Scotland, before Scotland, before it, really an interesting, they get the topography correct, the way, the feel of the environment, the foliage, you name it, all the different tribal groups. They travel through and they have their adventure to recover the Eagle. And it ends up being a really good story about honor and integrity and service, and coming to honor the service even of those who died on the other side, happens in the course of this film. And you're like, wow, this turned out to be a way different, way better film than I saw. But then at the end, when they're very, very near to the wall, they've been fleeing from the northern tribes, and they've got the eagle, and they need help, and he's too wounded to travel, our Roman anymore, Channing Tatum. So his slave, Eska, who's now become sort of his friend, he gives him his freedom. He runs off to go get help, and then he comes back, and he's got various of the veterans that we heard about, men who abandoned their post and ran off into the woods a decade ago when the eagle was lost. We had met one of them on the journey north. Hey, decisions have to be made. He abandoned his post, and so he settled in there to live like the Celts among the various tribes. And he says he's got a woman and he's got 2 sons. He's got a whole new life now. And suddenly all of these men that stayed there and had a new life now show up to fight to the death to defend the guy they've never met and the eagle that he just stole back. It is so utterly empty, vacuously stupid. Like these men ran away and they built their own lives, and more power to them. Why are they coming back now? If they weren't willing to die for it then, and now they have a whole new life, what are they doing here? There's no possible answer given to this riddle. Other films, like The Last Legion, which I like so much, the Legion resumes its position and comes back at the end to save the day. But in that version, those men never willingly abandoned Rome. They were sort of left out in the middle of nowhere, and there's reasons for why years go by and we didn't want this, but it ended up this way, but now you have all these men in this film, The Eagle, who abandoned their post, went on with their lives. There's no explanation for why they should come back. And the immediate response of any sane person watching it is how utterly stupid it is, not only because these characters have no motivation given, there's no explanation for their sudden change of heart, there's no character building around it at all. We met one of them, we don't know them, we don't care, but because logical people have expectations when they're watching a narrative, and they've been fleeing south towards Hadrian's Wall with the eagle. They can't be too far in theory. They might be right around the corner from the garrison where he served as commander at the beginning, where the men developed love and respect for him. It would be very simple for Eska to be like, I'm going to leave you here and get help, because he knows the turf and realizes we're not far from the garrison, and you're just waiting. You're like, he's going to come back, right? He's going to come back with the men from the garrison that we haven't seen since the beginning of the movie. It's all going to come together. No. You never see those guys again. You get these old ragtag soldiers who ran away in cowardice, who suddenly, for no reason explained, come back. And it really ruins the whole movie for me. I mean, I really would have given this, with a good ending, I'd have given this a good 8 out of 10, as being not historically accurate in the setting that we get at the beginning. Nevertheless, the uniforms, the behavior, the institutions, the relationships between the men are accurate, and the development of these 2 men's, wow, it's a great story. Like, it could have been a real story from that time, even though the context is wrong. But then the ending of this movie is so ridiculously stupid when you get to the climactic fight scene that you're like, what? I felt the urge to fast forward through it, but I didn't, because it was so dumb by the end, which is really unfortunate, because they did such a good job with the writing and the character building in between. And so I'd have to put it, not much of a movie in the long run, even though in the middle there, it is so enjoyable and so well done.